As a mental health worker or someone affected by mental health issues, what is one thing you would want to say to educate people about mental health and to lessen the stigma and shame surrounding it? If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe for more. As someone who struggles with PTSD, I would like to say that I don't choose to be as repetitive and exhausting as I can be. I will react the same way to the same situation because that is an association that has been with me for half my life. It's very difficult to keep opening up to friends without feeling like a burden because you cannot cope with the same thing as last week. They have heard me talk about it so often and given me several pieces of advice on it, and I hate feeling like this broken record, but to me that is a core part of this disorder. Edit, obligatory thanks for the first Reddit Gold. Also, thank you so much for your responses. I've been reading all of them during breaks and try to respond here and there. Physical therapy is seen as a regular part of recovery from any serious injury. There's no stigma attached for someone in a cast or a wheelchair to see a physical therapist. Mental health counseling should be considered in the same light. We know we are acting irrational, but it's not something we could help. Especially if it's something like PTSD or anxiety. Some days are just harder than others, but that doesn't mean we aren't trying. Just being there for us is enough, and we appreciate it so much. Something to help with the stigma? Most people don't see mental illness until it has manifested itself outwardly. You know, the homeless guy yelling at a trash can type of thing. Realize that you are looking at the extreme end. Thinking that is what mental illness is like thinking someone with 90% of their skin scorched off is what a burn looks like. As someone with bipolar, I always compare it to diabetes. It's a lifelong condition, usually managed by medication, though occasionally people manage without. The medication isn't always perfect, so you have to let those around you know the warning signs. If you ignore, stop taking your meds suddenly, you will have serious problems and may embarrass yourself in public. Sadly, I've recently had to add an extra section to my explanation as part of an apology. If you're a diabetic in hospital waiting for your foot to be amputated, even if you took your meds perfectly, you get limited sympathy if you spent every weekend stuffing yourself with cake. For bipolar, the equivalent tends to be booze, drugs, and god damn is the level of substance abuse high amongst us. We know that sometimes you don't understand us, but please consider that sometimes we don't understand either. As hard as it is for you, imagine how hard it is for the person suffering through it. I don't know why I have to flatten out every single wrinkle in the sheet before I sleep, and I know my boyfriend is tired and wants to go to bed too, but if I don't, I won't be able to sleep and will be itchy all night. We're doing our best, please just be patient with us. ADHD exists. It's not just being hyper or a condition therapists invented. If I was diagnosed as a kid, I might have gotten on my meds sooner and finish high school. You can't just tell a depressed person to go out and talk to people and have fun. Depression kills the will to do anything. It hurts to know that you can't trust anyone. You never know when someone is going to sell your secrets and tell everyone about that one thing you did when you were extremely ill just for some karma. You hear stories of crazy people doing weird things and know that someday you might be the crazy person people talk about for morbidness. And to get better, you always need to trust nurses and doctors, and yourself. And that's hard to do when you're seen as an anecdote and not as a person. Intrusive thoughts are exactly that. Intrusive. The amount of times people have told me to just shrug it off or not think about it is annoying. Edit. I've been asked for an example, so I'll share my personal experience. What a lot of people seem to misunderstand is that most of the time they aren't traditional thoughts. They are commands your brain tries to issue, and you have to mentally block them and stop them from occurring. Having to constantly stop yourself from hacking someone with a cleaver or shoving a glass in someone's face really messes with your day. Sometimes you just can't function properly, and it really messes with your head to constantly deal with that kind of stress on top of living a normal life. Edit 2, for people asking how I cope. First of all, knowledge about the condition is the best thing you can acquire to combat it. Once you know why things are happening, you can deal with them. On top of that, I have a meditative coping strategy for when it gets particularly bad in inconvenient situations. I know it sounds silly, but I'll take 10 seconds or so, imagine a wall with an iron-bolted door in my head and forcefully lock that version of myself in there. Then I'll squash it, like the trash compactor from Star Wars, grinning face with sweat. Coupled with this, I have a great doctor and some medication which really helps keep it under control. The final thing is more of a lifestyle change. I keep a strict exercise schedule and weekday routine, which is more important to me than a lot of things in my life. It reminds me that I'm in control and my discipline won't falter. Hope this helps someone. You're dealing with people who are essentially running with one leg in a two-legged race. The bar for success for the mentally ill is much different than everyone else. For instance, someone suffering from severe depression making it to old age is sometimes a great feat. It certainly kills many before they get there. Edit, to all of you who have replied and I cannot answer, cheers to you for getting up and doing what you need to do to get through another day. I know it's hard. I know it's thankless. I know it seems pointless, but you've achieved more than you think and can keep achieving more. Congratulations on what you've accomplished so far. Just because someone looks okay doesn't mean they're okay. I have a full-time job. I have a house. I have a decent wage and I'm doing okay for my age. I also have borderline personality disorder, depression, anxiety, possibly PTSD, and traits of other personality disorders. I appear to function on the outside, but inside I struggle every day. I co-own my house with my dad, and despite living with me, even he thinks I'm okay. People who are suffering often bottle it up in an attempt to not be a burden or to just try and get on with life, but it wears them down. Reach out to your friends and ask how they are. Let them know you're there for them. And if they disclose they have a certain disorder, do a little research, think about how it affects them rather than how it affects you. You can't make them talk to you, but you can show them you're there. I'm fucking trying. Please don't ridicule me for my coping mechanisms. I like to color to help ignore thoughts. If I'm doing that instead of do tasks, then I'm really struggling. Therapy isn't only for the mentally ill, nor is it a cash grab. Therapy works. Not every therapist's the same either, so while some may not work for you, others will. Therapy works. Edit. Wow, first gold. Thank you so much. Stop assuming everyone who skips school or doesn't come to work is just lazy or doesn't give a shit. Some of us peps with depression have a hard time even getting out of bed, and you making nasty comments about us being lazy only makes it worse. Stop trying to get me to try cures that are unevidenced. I'm fine with medication and therapy. Edit, a word. Yes, I hallucinate. Yes, I have voices in my head. Yes, I'm not exactly completely sane, but that does not mean I can't function. I can still hold conversations, I can still hold relationships, I can still be relatively stable in public. Also, I am not my mental illness. Do not see me as that depressed kid, see me for who I am. There is so much more to a person than their mental state, and mental illness can affect anyone. Age, race and gender have nothing to do with it, except for gender dysphoria. A 4-year-old can experience PTSD and so can a 30-year-old. It's all about environment. Talk about it. Suicide is the second most common cause of death among teenagers and young adults, so they are a big clientele to reach. But also middle-aged people are at high risk, especially men. You can share articles that talk positively about mental illness and recovery, along with being active in foundations for suicide prevention like the AFSP in the US, the NSPA in UK, or whichever it is in your country. Most importantly, if you know someone who is feeling down or has suicidal thoughts, the best thing you can do to help is listen and ask directly, "Do you have suicidal thoughts?" This leaves them with a simple yes or no question, so they aren't the one who have to say it out loud. Don't panic when someone says, yes. You can have suicidal thoughts without wanting to actively take your life. They are a coping mechanism for underlying issues. If you think you can handle it, ask how persistent they are, if they can distance themselves from those thoughts, or if they have a plan on how to take their life. Make sure to use the word suicide or any phrases without a negative connotation. See killing yourself. Don't give advice, just actively listen and comfort them in a way that doesn't make them feel trivialized or judged. Staying away from any moral judgments regarding their feelings is very important. Also, you can offer to support them when they plan to get treatment, like accompanying them when going to the doctor, figuring out who to call and so on. There are also some chat or mail-based counseling options if speaking in person or on the phone is too much for them. Edit, clarified some points, different wording. Thanks for watching. Please leave a like and subscribe for more content.